yield to Mr. Obernolte for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank Chairman Bost, Ranking Member Takano, and the other members of the Veterans Affairs Committee for allowing me to waive onto this hearing. It's very important to me because it highlights an issue that is critically important to my district. I represent a district with 5 military bases, over 40,000 veterans, and I also represent Loma Linda and the Veterans Affairs facility there. So what goes on at Loma Linda has a direct impact on all of the veterans that I represent and the quality of care that they receive. And as you all are aware, we've had some pretty troubling developments at VA Loma Linda, and I know everyone here on the panel is as committed as I am to trying to get to the bottom of those problems and fix them. What has become abundantly clear after this investigation, which I led with Chairman Bost, and we conducted dozens of interviews with whistleblowers. We had a bunch of letters, a couple of site visits, and we continue to review thousands of pages of documents. It seems very clear that a hostile work environment exists there. And thank goodness for the whistleblowers, because without them, we would not have visibility into the situation there. And when you have a hostile work environment, the concern is that people don't want to work there. And if people don't want to work there, you're not going to attract the best quality people. And if you can't attract the best quality people, then our veterans are not going to be receiving the quality of care that they should receive. And I know that we're all committed to fixing that problem. So, Dr. Elnahal, I'd like to start with you. Recently, the Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection conducted a climate review of VA Loma Linda, and I think it's fair to say the results were pretty damning. It's crystal clear that the employees there have a severe lack of trust in the leadership of Loma Linda. Do you believe that this is an indication of poor leadership, or is it something else there at the facility, and what needs to be done to fix that?
I read that climate review cover to cover, Congressman, definitely some very concerning findings. What I think we need to do there is open every single avenue we can to have frontline voices heard when they consider a vulnerability or they report a vulnerability in the quality of care. We need to make sure employees are treated right by every supervisor. There's a very notable case of a supervisor who had a very toxic environment, ultimately went through the disciplinary chain and counseled that supervisor to improve. It takes time, Congressman, to change culture, but we are putting every single effort that we can into that medical center to hear the voices of our staff to ensure that veterans do better. And the one piece of good news that tells me that they're on a better trajectory is that they were formerly on what we call the highest tier of need, Tier 1 on quality and patient safety. They've since graduated because they're starting to improve their quality metrics. There's still a lot of work to do, as highlighted by that climate report, but we're dead focused on it.
I'm glad to hear that. One of the most troubling aspects of that report to me was the fact that it highlighted that employees are still afraid to disclose wrongdoing because they fear retaliation. And with some of the allegations that were made, their fears are justifiable. So what are you doing to reassure employees that they can come forward and report wrongdoing without being retaliated against?
The most important thing as a leader you can do to earn trust is to show up and to listen and to not be only interacting with employees when you have bad news or you want them to do something. When I was a CEO of a single hospital before this in Newark, I would spend most of my days, at least a portion of it, doing what's called rounding, showing up to the units, both clinical and non-clinical. I know the director there is doing that himself. He's asking all of the executive leadership team members to do that. And when you show up and you're supportive, that's when trust is built. It takes much more time to build trust than it takes to lose trust. And I know that things are in a better direction there, but there's still much more work to do.
Let me ask you about another aspect that I've heard about from whistleblowers, and this is the frustration that nothing that they say ends up mattering. And the supervisorial employee that you highlighted earlier when we were discussing the situation is a good example. There was someone that was promoted despite these allegations. And then most recently, the director of the Loma Linda Medical Center just received the highest possible performance rating This is a big frustration to the whistleblowers that I've spoken with because they feel like they bring these issues up, nothing is done, and the people that they are talking about end up getting promoted instead of disciplined. So what can you tell those whistleblowers that might restore some of that trust?
Well, the most important thing that they should know is that we have to not only show up, but to follow through on what they're saying. And so, I know what it's like as a physician to raise concerns to leadership about vulnerabilities in care, only to not see anything happen after that. Every single patient safety report that is flagged as a serious concern needs follow through. When you hold forums, you have to follow through on what you're hearing. That is part of accountability and leadership, and so I will definitely be reinforcing that with the VISN and medical center leadership.
Wow, thank you very much. And I see my time's expired, but I want to thank everyone for their testimony today, and let's all work together to try and get this situation resolved. The most troubling aspect of that climate review was the revelation that this problem is an ongoing problem. It's not one that's been solved yet, and so we really need to take action and restore trust there to make sure our veterans are receiving the kind of care that we all want them to receive. So thank you very much, Madam Chair. I yield back.